Alright everybody, welcome to my YouTube channel. Another week of a beginner JavaScript course. My name is Chris, and I'll be teaching you JavaScript in the most basic and the easiest way possible. This course is beginner friendly, and most of the explanations would be explained at the very rudimentary level. So alright, so let's jump into this week. Last week we learned about data types, where we talked basically about 5 different kinds of data that we can input into JavaScript. Today we're going to be talking about variables declaration. Now, simply put, variables are simply names of storage locations in computer memory. If you've done or had any course on computer, you will know that computers are garbage in, garbage out. What that means is that it only gives you what you store in memory. Computers don't have any prior information of their own. So that means that for us to be able to interact with any data, we must have at some point stored it somewhere in the computer memory, and then we are retrieving it later. Alright, now in JavaScript there are 3 ways via which we could declare variables. Alright, so that means we could name them. So we could name the storage point in memory. So for example, if I wanted to save my name, if I wanted to declare my name to the computer, right, I would say, for example, I could say var my name, take that again, var my name is equals to Steven. From our last tutorial, you will know that this is a string. Now you have to use the keyword var followed by the name. This could be anything, right? So it could be a name, it could be anything. All right, now there are certain rules towards that, but I'll let you know. All right, so it could be var a name, it could be var the name, anything. Right, the only rules are that it cannot start with a number, it cannot be a number. Okay, it cannot be var true. That doesn't work. Okay, it doesn't work like that. You can't do that. All right, so usually you start with the keyword var, and then you put the name of what you want to give it to, like what you want to name that storage point. You call it var name is equals to Steven. So what you're telling the computer is, I want you to store in your memory my name or a name as Steven. Right, so now when you go to retrieve this name, the computer will look in its memory and it will look for this, right, in memory name, and then give you the value. Right, so if we do a console.log name, right, so what I've told the computer is I want you to log out the value of name here for me. Now if I come to node variable.js, we would see my name there should be Steven. Okay, my terminal is taking, sorry, you see it there. So variable name, say there Steven. If I say var I keep making a mistake, var age equals to 52. I'm not 52, by the way, right? And then I say console.log age, and I save that. Remember to save node variable.js. all right, now it will give me age, see, Steven and 52. all right, so the pattern is that you start with the keyword var. You start with var. All right, I'm just going to comment this out. All right, I'm also going to teach you a bunch of things. All right, so you start with this var, okay, and then you put what you want to name that storage point, followed by the equal to sign, and then the value of what you want to store. Okay, so again the pattern is var, right? So the keyword followed by what you want to name it and the equal to sign, and then the value of what you want to put. No, this doesn't always have to be a string. Remember from the data types class we did, there are different kinds of data that we could pass to it, and I've just showed you an example here by passing number. Get that? All right, so another way to declare a variable is to use the keyword let. All right, so I'll just show you first. Let name2 is equals to Chris. You see that? And then console.log name name2. All right, and I'll just clear my terminal so we can see everything all together. And then if I say node variable.js, you will see that it will say Chris. You see that? So now it says Chris. All right, so the same thing. Now what is the difference between these two is something that we will learn later in the class. All right, but what you need to know is something called scoping. All right, so when you declare variables with let or var, it is possible for you to change the value of that variable later. Okay, it is possible for you to change. What it means that I have declared var here as, I've declared age here as 52. I can come down here and say age is equal to 34. Now notice that to change it I did not need to declare var again. I'm only telling it, oh, you remember that age that we stored? I want to change it now at this point to 34. Now if I console.log this and say age now, and I'll just comment this out so we don't get confused again, right? And then I said node variable.js. You see now, instead of this 52 it gives me 34. What I have done is I have successfully changed the value in memory. I have told the computer that I've using JavaScript, I've told the computer that I once stored age with the value of 52, but now at this point I want to change the value of age to become 34. The same thing can happen with let. I can come here and say name2 should actually be equal to Harry, right? And what that is that now if I do node variable.js, sorry, I didn't log that. Okay, so clear, so we are not declared that node variable.js. You see now it gives me Harry instead of Steven. You see that? Let me show you something. If I console.log here right after I declare name2, I want you to see something interesting. All right, and I say node variable.js. What would happen is it would first log Chris, right? At this point it will log Chris first because that's what it knows. But when it gets here it will say, oh, now you want name2 to be Harry. Okay, console.log, okay, name2 is now Harry. So if we just log this, you will see it. You see, at first it gives us Chris, name2 is Chris, but by the time that's this log, by the time we get here it says, oh, you want me to update name2 to become Harry. Okay, I have done that. What you have now is Harry. Okay, so in var and let we are able to change the value, all right, over time. Now that brings us to const, and I'm sure this is straightforward. with const, we cannot change the value once it has been assigned, once it has been declared. All right, if we declare and say const name 3 is equals to James, and we say console.log name 3, you would see, I just want to console.log this out. I just want to comment this out rather, so that we don't get confused again. All right, and then when I come here, I'm just gonna say node variable.js. You see, it gives me James. But now watch this. When I attempt to change name 3, right, is equals to Paul, watch what happens. It will throw an error. All right, you see, it will say assignment to constant variable. What that means is that it's saying, oh, I'm sorry, the value of name 3 cannot be changed because you made it a constant. Okay, the value of name 3 cannot be changed. It cannot be changed. It has to remain James. That's what he's saying. So he's saying that you already told me to make it impossible to change this value, but now you are asking me to change it. I already locked it. I cannot change it anymore. Okay, that's what the computer is literally telling us. So what is then is the difference between var const and let. Like I said, at a later video when we learn about scoping, because I'm just going to give a rudimentary explanation. You see, with var, we can store everything you declare with var is stored globally. It means that think of it as a circle. All right, think of it as a circle. All right, everything you save is accessible anywhere within that circle. Anything you declare with var, using var, is accessible anywhere within that circle. All right, anywhere. So picture all of this is declared. If anywhere I declare var, I can access it. It means that I can change it anywhere. But with let can be scoped to certain sections of that circle. All right, let can be restricted and say, oh, I only want you to work here. And const can never be changed. Once you declare a thing with const, it is not possible to change it, to change its value. All right, now how do we do this now? So one of the questions that you're most likely asking is, so how do I know which one to use? Now what you want to use is entirely up to you, but the convention is always, the rule is always start with const, because see, because you do not want your variables to be easily changed anywhere else. All right, you don't want it to be easily changed, because now this is beginner, we're just teaching this. Imagine if you're writing a very large application, if you're coding a very large application with maybe 3,000 or 4,000 lines of code, and you declare a variable with var name, and then maybe somewhere on line 2000 and something you write another line name. The problem is now that there is a conflict somewhere, and you might not be able to find where that problem is coming, because in line 1 you have declared name, and then in line 2000 your code is now buggy and you don't know what's going on. So the practice is always start with const. If you are ever in doubt whether the value is going to change, start with const. If you learn that you will need to change the value, you can go back and then change it to var or let, right? But always go the safe route of starting with const. Okay, so we've learned variable declarations. All right, and I just want to point a few things before we go. A lot of you may be asking, okay Steven, what are these things showing up in green and you say commenting out? Okay, so in JavaScript generally, not just JavaScript, in programming we are able to add comments to code. right? So we are able to add comments that sort of like create explanations of what is happening. When you comment a code, you're helping the person who is reading that code understand what you're doing. All right, if we do not have comments in codes, it will be really difficult for somebody else to look through our code and understand it. Now, if you notice here, I did 2 slant lines, 2 slashes, and this is how you write a comment in JavaScript code. Now, when you make a comment, comments do not show up in your code base. They are just only read only by you. The browser recognizes that, oh, this is a comment, I'm going to ignore it. The terminal or the JavaScript recognizes when JavaScript is run, it recognizes that, oh, when it sees these 2 slashes followed by a bunch of things, it just knows that, oh, this is a comment, so I'm going to ignore this. All right, and all of that stuff. So yes, so it's very advisable to always comment your code. Now, before we go, one thing that I want to say about variable declaration is this: do not do this. Name 1, name 2, name 3. Do not do that. Okay, you want to give descriptive names that are unique. All right, you want to give unique descriptive names. All right, name can be anybody. It could be, so imagine if you have 2,000 people and they're all there and everything is name, and if you have maybe like 4 or 10 sections of people and everything is name, you get confused along the line. So one thing that you want to do is say my name, right? And one of the ways that we do this is we use camel casing in JavaScript. Camel casing, nothing says that if you actually write it like this it is bad, but I mean the convention is to go camel casing. All right, okay, so you go my name. All right, you can now go his name, you can go her name, so you need to give descriptive names, names that are unique to the other. Variable names that are unique to the other. Okay, that way your code is easily readable, by the next person. So you don't have a bunch of name all over your code base. That's just wrong. Yes, so even these might not be the best examples, but I'm sure that you get the message. All right, so guys, let me know if you have any questions. Leave a comment, like the video, share, subscribe to the channel, and just leave me a comment if you have any questions, and I would I'll be readily happy to answer you. Okay, thank you guys so much. See you in the next tutorial.